योनित्यमच्युतपदां भजयुग्मरुक्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धो रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये कौडिन्यवं सवरवारिधि पूर्णचन्द्रं श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशपदां भजभृङ्गराजं रङ्गार्यदेशिकपदाप्तशुदेशिकत्वं श्रीरामकृष्णगुरुवर्यमहं प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्त्रष्टे जीवजीवातवे नमः।
श्रीमती यतीन्द्रवर योगी पदाब्जभृंगम शिवानशैल मुनिवर्यदायक पात्रं विज्ञान वेद शिखरोद्भव तत्वबोध्यं रामानुजं करिजितं मुनिमाश्रयामः।
Then so we said how what happens with Prakriti. What I'll do today is because what Achit Prakaranam does is it takes the creation in different lines and then puts them together, but it expects us to put it together in our mind to know where we are going. Yeah. So today, what I'll try and do to an extent is try and bridge that gap. I'll try and create a systematic flow, and upon which we will add things so it becomes easier. Okay. So today let's start. We ended last session with Aksharam Tamasi Liyate. What Aksharam, right? So Vibhaktatama, Avibhaktatama, Avibhaktatama, Vibhaktatama, and Akshara. Right? So Mishra Sattvam. So we finished Shuddha Sattvam. Mishra Sattvam is in the Pralaya Sthiti as Avibhaktatama. Tama means Mishra Sattvam, as we had mentioned. So Avibhaktatama is when it's undivided. Mishra Sattva remains undivided in the Udarasthala Bhagavan Sriman Narayana. From Avibhaktatama, it becomes Vibhaktatama. It starts dividing. And then we talked about Akshara. From Akshara, Sukshma Rupa of that Prakriti is Akshara here. I'll try and explain to you this in a little more depth. Prakriti is when Akshara remains in a very Sukshma avastha. From Akshara there is something called Tama Prakriti, where there is only darkness. From that darkness, beyond that darkness is Paramatma. Sattvam Rajastamaiti Gunaha Prakriti Sambhavaha in Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter. Nibadnanti Mahabaho Deha Dehinam Avyayam. Then this is where we start today. Sattvam Jnana Sukhe Tadu Bhayas Sangam Cha Janayati. Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat Prakasha Kamanamayam Sukha Sangena Badhanati Jnana Sangena Chanagha. Then Rajo Ragatmakam Vidhi. It increases Ragam. What is Ragam? So let's understand this. Remember these two words for each of these. Yeah, Jnana and Sukha is associated with Sattvam. Raga and Trishna is associated with Rajo. Viparit Jnana and Alasya associated with Tamogun. And each of these have their own places in their own paths. There are three kinds of jnana here: Ajnana, Anyatha jnana, and Viparit jnana. We will understand this in the future. It will come, but keep this in mind. Here, Viparit jnana, so that which Atma, Sharir is the Atma, is Viparit jnana. Okay? Tamas induces that jnanam. That Sharir is the Atma, is the Viparit jnanam, which the Tamoguna induces. Etesham samya dashayam vikaraha sama asyasthascha bhavanti. Vaishamya dashayam vikara vishamaha spashtascha bhavanti. When do we observe these three gunas? When they are in Visham avastha, you will be able to see. Meaning when the gunas are doing karya, when Prakriti is doing karya, you will be able to observe this. When it is in Karana avastha, you will not be able to see. For example, if a person comes into the room, sits, closes his eyes, wears a hat, covers his face and just sits quietly, you don't know what kind of a person he is. He has not started his karya yet. Then he opens his mouth, and then all the vikara starts happening from then on. Okay, so that's because once the karya happens, you will be able to start observing these three. Is all this sutram is saying. Sama means when there is no karya. Vishama means when karya starts. Sama, samyavastha and vaishamyavastha. Okay. There is a sutram later we'll talk Vaishamya Naigrhinyana in Brahma Sutra. There is a shloka which goes Pranavo Dhanuhu Sarvohyatma Brahma Tal Lakshamuchyate. It explains the meaning of the Pranava Akshara here. Vishama Vikareshu Prathama Vikaro Mahan. What is the first vikara of Prakriti? So let me just read you these things. The first, there is Mishra Sattvam. From Mishra Sattvam, Avibhakta Tama. Avibhakta Tama and Vibhakta Tama states of Mishra Sattvam. From Avibhakta Tama, there is Vibhakta Tama, there is differentiation. From differentiation, you come down to Akshara. From Akshara, you come down to Prakriti. Now, Prakriti has three gunas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. That's where the three gunas come in. It does not come before this. From Prakriti, Mahatattva is formed. Mahatattva is also sometimes referred to as the Buddhi. Because for karya to happen, you require a karana. Now, karana's nimitta. Nimitta karana here, Bhagavan Sankalpa's nimitta karana would be Mahatattva. So, from Mahatattva, Ahamkara is born. For the sake of this, a very tall tree with not many branches at the moment, we'll just call it Tamas Ahankar. From Tamas Ahankar, a Shabda Tanmatra is born. And then there is a cycle. From there, Pancha Mahabhuta, and with that, Srishti happens. Mishra Sattvam, because we are only talking about Mishra Sattvam here. So forget Shuddha Sattvam. In Mishra Sattvam meaning Leela Vibhuti. Leela Vibhuti, Achit Prakaranam, Achit is only Mishra Sattvam. So what is the most Sukshma state of Mishra Sattvam? Is Avibhakta Tama, where it is completely undifferentiated within Bhagavan. The Udarasthala of Bhagavan. That is Avibhakta Tama. From this undifferentiated state, it differentiates and starts forming something. Differentiate means it comes together in some form. So you have, let's say, I'll try and draw a parallel with science. I don't know how accurate it would be. But let's assume you have quarks. They're very rudimentary particles. Some 3 quarks come together, form, I think, neutron, and 4 quarks with some gluons come together, form protons. That's, let's say, from Avibhakta Tama, which is the quark, to Vibhakta Tama, which are those protons, neutrons, and electrons they form. Then Vibhakta Tama to Akshara, they form an atom. From Akshara, they form molecule, which is Prakriti. Now that molecule will have qualities Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. It may not be an accurate parallel, but it gives you an idea of what we are talking about. Because it's all matter in the end now, isn't it?
Yeah.
From Vibhakta Tama is Akshara, then Prakriti, then Mahatattva, Mahan. Okay? Ato, that is the first vikara of Prakriti. Prakriti has how many gunas? 3. So from Prakriti, whatever form will also attain these 3 gunas. However, your children will take good attributes and bad attributes of the parents. If little bit, if nothing also, if they will always take something, right? At least the DNA for all practical purposes. And will look similar. The most adopted kid will also look like his birth parent only. Okay. Right. So that's because that quality goes on. Just like that from Mahatattva also. After Prakriti, Mahatattva is made. Mahatattva also has the qualities of these 3 gunas. Okay. So, Ato Vaikarika Tejasa Bhutadi Bhedena. Vaikarika is Sattva, Tejas, Rajo, Bhutadi Tamo. Referring to that anyway. Bhedena Trividho. There are 3 Bhedas in Trividho ahankaro jayate. Ahankaro abhimana hetu. Ahankara. Where does ahankara come from? There are three ahankaras which are born from Mahatattva. Because three. Rajas, Sattva ahankar, Raja ahankar, and Tamo ahankar, Tamas ahankar. Okay. These are all born from Mahatattva, because Mahatattva will also gather those three qualities of Prakriti. From ahankara, abhiman. Ahankara is the abhimana, hetu of abhiman. Hetu means the reason for. Or like, on a letter when you write subject. In Hindi you write hetu. So now you know what it means. So the reason. So ahankara abhimana hetu. Vaikarikas tejascha bhutadischaiva tamasa trividho yamahankaro mahatatvada jayate. These three ahankaras are born out of the Mahatattva. The three Mahatattva. Now, what do these give rise to? Atra. These ahankara that we are talking about. Vaikarikach Shrotratva Chakshur Jihva Grhana Rupani Jnanendriyani Pancha. So Sattva ahankara, Vaikarikat, Vaikara here referring to Sattva guna. From Sattva ahankara, the Pancha Jnanendriya born. Vakapani pada payu pasthani karmendriyani pancha. Karmendriya also 5 are born. And finally, manaschet ekadashe ekadashendriyani jayante. So with manas, 11 pancha karmendriya, pancha jnanendriya and manas, 11 of these indriyas are born out of Sattva ahankar from Mahatattva. Then, any questions so far? Simple, isn't it? Bhutadesh shabda tan matram jayate. Now we are talking about ahankara, tamas ahankara. From tamas ahankara, shabda tan matra jayante. From shabda tan matra, akash is born. Akash. So what does that mean? Now what is akash? Akash basically means space, right? Now you create space. But wasn't there space already for these to be there in the first place? How can you create space when it is already there?
Yeah, that's Akash, right? Where
It's only the differentiation that is happening there. It is not space being created. It's being differentiated as space at that point.
Okay. I would say that would be a very accurate way of putting it. Okay. Even though they say that space is also a dhatu of sort. But for example, my Acharya was giving this example. So, in the olden days, nowadays, you're living in the 10, 15 floored house, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But when we made houses at home, in the huts, so you make the 4 walls and then you make the roof. You neither sit on the wall, you neither sit on the roof. You sit on the floor, which you did not even create. The floor was already there to begin with.
Right.
And the space which you are in was always there, even when the hut was not there.
Right.
So what changed? Something changed, and this space inside became different from the space outside.
That's all.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So that is the difference between Maha Akash and Kshudra Akash. Kshudra Akash is the small one which you have contained in that room. Maha Akash is everything around. So here Akasha is formed, meaning when there is nothing to differentiate and exist within, what is the point of Akasha? It has no the state of its existence is it does not matter. If there is nothing to occupy it, what is the point of that space? The validity of space comes into existence when there is something to occupy it.
Right.
You require a storage, therefore you buy a cupboard. right? If you do not require, but that space which is the cupboard is going to occupy will actually reduce the amount of space you actually have in the house, because the
Yes.
cupboard itself occupies space. Why do you still use a cupboard? To differentiate that space.
Container.
That is the form from Shabda Tanmatra is Akash. So it starts with Shabda. Now we'll understand this in a moment. From Akasha is Sparsha Tanmatra. Sparsha means to feel. From Sparsha Tanmatra is Vayu. From Vayu is Rupa Tanmatra, form. Just take a note if you're writing. If you already have the notes, no problem.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, no problem. From Rupa Tanmatra is Tej. From Teja is Rasa Tanmatra. From Rasa Tanmatra is Jal. From Jala is Gandha Tanmatra. Jala is water, by the way. I'm sure you know. Jalam, no? Yeah. Jala. Jala, from Jala is Gandha Tanmatra. And from Gandha Tanmatra is Prithvi. Now let's understand it in a more scientific way also. I know science has also had great progress and prowess in this field. So we can try and draw a few parallels, if not many, in this understanding. Because if it is true, regardless of how we try and apply it, it should remain similar. It should remain the same. Truth should not change based on just the language we use to make you understand, right? The language we use to describe something should not falter with the truth. If it does, then there is some problem with the language. But the truth will remain the same regardless. So in the beginning, what was there? If let's assume the Big Bang. What is the Big Bang? The bang is what? Bang is a vibration. Does that have to be a physical vibration of molecules? Need not. The molecules haven't formed only.
Yeah.
If there was no formation of molecules, how could there be a bang? But if there was a bang, there was already formation of molecules. So
it's a contradiction.
yes. But there must have been some vibration. Because an outcome of that only we know that we exist. And that vibration is what we call Shabda. The most rudimentary form of the vibration. Meaning any form of... The most rudimentary form of energy is what? Which causes motion or which causes change from anything. It changes one thing to another. Because energy is absorbed or released. So it changes. Even if it's released, it reduces energy. When it is captured, it increases. So, therefore, it is Shabda Tanmatra. The most rudimentary form. Once there is movement, it occupies space, right? If you move, you need space. Like if you go to Bombay in the local train, there is no space. There is no movement. You stand like this and then you get out. And then you forget to walk for a couple of steps because you've been standing like this for an hour. You see? So, then when you come out, what do? You start shaking a little bit. When a dog is sleeping, he's at rest. And then he gets up. What does he do? He stretches. There is some form of movement. He creates space around him. He allows that space. Now when there is space, there is a possibility of formation. But what kind of formation? It is not a perceivable formation. It is taking shape. That is called Sparsha Tanmatra. So you can feel it, but you can't really understand what it is. There is some sensation. There is some kind of feeling which is there. But we don't really know what is it. And then that forms into the first form, which is Vayu. Vayu is what? Air. It is gaseous state. So the formation of gases start then. From the gaseous state, there is form. Now gases condense. When they condense, they have a form. They take the form of a container. What is the container? The Akasha right now. It has taken form. That is Rupa Tanmatra. From Rupa Tanmatra is Tej. Now what is Tej here?
Tej is spark, right? Or
Yeah,
fire.
Tej can also be light. It can be any form of energy. Now because there is a form, now this form has formed because of some form of energy. Now the transfer of energy is possible in
Okay.
some way.
Okay.
Okay. And because there is this transfer of energy, and if a gaseous state absorbs a lot of energy, it can convert into a high energy state or a plasma state.
Right.
That is what we could refer as Teja. And plasma is there all around us when you light a candle to the sun, waves all around us. Plasma state of matter. From that Tej you have Rasa Tanmatra, because you require some form of substance for observation of rasa, the taste. Is the molecular integrity which gives us the taste, right? So you can taste one thing from another. Is it more subtle than smell? Maybe not. Smell is a more subtler form. You may be able to smell something without tasting it. But if you taste something, you most necessarily will be able to smell it in some way. Right? Then you have the Rasa Tanmatra. From that ability to taste, you form the liquid state of matter, which is Jala. And then you go back into the cycle. From the Jala, you have the Gandha Tanmatra. From the Jalas, you again go back. Then the gaseous state forms as well. Through that gaseous state, the Gandha Tanmatra. And the Gandha is an aspect of Prithvi, because Prithvi has all the 5 elements, right? It has the Jala, Tej, Vayu, Akash, and Prithvi. Gandha Tanmatra. So you can smell Prithvi, you can taste, you can see it,
You can feel it.
Okay, and it occupies space. Jala, you can, because you can taste it, because it's a Rasa Tanmatra. If you lick something solid, unless it comes out of it, you will not be able to taste it. So it has to necessarily remove itself from that state for the taste buds to recognize it. Correct? Because it has to bind to our taste buds.
Yeah.
Then Teja does not have the quality of Jala and Gandha. You cannot smell light.
Yes.
But it has the qualities of Vayu and Akasha. It occupies space. Light, when you switch on the light, it occupies the room within that Vayu that is there. Look at space. There is no Vayu. It's all dark. Yet, even though there is light, it is not able to occupy it, because there is no Vayu to land for it to exist. The moment you hits the moon, there is a surface, and therefore it reflects, and we can see the moon, and it is bright. The same light before it hits the moon is dark. There is nothing for the light to sit upon for us to observe it. Correct? So these tanmatras, Shabda Tanmatra, Rupa Tanmatra, Rasa Tanmatra, Gandha Tanmatra, and Sparsha Tanmatra. I didn't say that in order.
Yeah.
Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. That is the order.
Yeah.
These are the Upadan Karana for Prakriti, for Mahabhut, for the Pancha Mahabhut. So, the Tanmatra created the Pancha Mahabhut in this way.
Yes. Okay.
That is the formation of the physical entity. So previously we saw that the Pancha, the Gyanendriyas and the Pancha Karmendriyas and Manas were created by the Sattva Ahankara. The Tamo Ahankara, Tamas Ahankara, created the Pancha Mahabhut through the Pancha Tanmatra. The Tamas Ahankara. With this, now Tanmatrani Bhutanam Sukshma Avastaha. So Tanmatras are only Pancha Mahabhut actually. But the Sukshma Avastha of Pancha Mahabhut is called Tanmatra. Bhutanam Sukshma Avastha. Sukshma means small, the rudimentary, most basic. So when Srishti happens, it's happening this way. So let's assume when Pralaya is happening, how it is happening. Right? So you have Gandha Tanmatra, they're breaking down. Prithvi breaks down into Gandha Tanmatra. Correct? If you lift and throw sand, you'll smell it all around you. You may sneeze also, but you'll smell it all around you. You see? So it starts breaking down. It'll slowly break down further and further. And as it breaks down, it becomes more and more rudimentary. So Prithvi becomes Gandhatan Matra, then that will break down further. Yeah. Then what does Gandhatan Matra break down into? Jala, it will become Jala. Jala will break down into Rasatan Matra, will break down into Teja. Teja will break down into Rupatan Matra, into Vayu. That will break down into Sparshatan Matra, then into Akash. And Akash will Shabdatan Matra, then Tamas Ahankara, then Mahatattva. Then they keep breaking down and becoming more and more rudimentary, all of which will be taken up into the Udarasthala of Bhagavan. What is the significance of the
reverse order of going back?
Absolutely. Right? But what is the significance of Udarasthala of Bhagavan? Why should it go to Udarasthala of Bhagavan? Why couldn't it go to the toe firstly? And why should it go to one place only? To all of us. You can relate to it, right? So because the mother also starts from the umbilical cord, and from there the child has been nurtured. So Bhagavana will also nurture the Leela Vibhuti from the Udarasthala and through the umbilical cords. But the more higher significance, of course, that is the greater significance. But a lower significance of sort would be that this basically is trying to explain that this Leela Vibhuti, the Srishti here of this Brahmandam, happens from one point. It does not happen from multiple points. So even if you look at it in terms of the physics of it, it makes sense.
The Big Bang, 1 point, right?
1 point. The Big Bang never said from many places. And how do we know the Big Bang is, even though we call it a theory, is almost proven to be true? You have been able to capture vibrations from then, 14.5 billion odd years ago. We're trying to capture vibrations today. And using those vibrations, you're able to say that, okay, this may have happened then. What, from the Tamas Ahankara, what was the first thing that was born?
Sound, vibration, right?
Shabda Tanmatra. So that means from Shabda only everything is formed. From this.
Okay.
And that it will go back to that Shabda only and then go further down. That is also another point of significance. That the Big Bang necessarily must have happened at this point, but that may not be the end. And we don't say it is. So, from our understanding of Avibhakta Tama, Vibhakta Tama, Akshara, then Prakriti, Pranaga, Prakriti, and so on, we mentioned last session. Then we go down. Here is where the Big Bang is happening. So, there is a lot to learn before that also, of what may have happened.
Right.
And there is a lot after this also. The next set is Anyabhya Mahankarabhyam. Now, Rajo Ahankar. There's one more Ahankara is left. Sattva and Tama we have done. What does the Rajas Ahankara do? Swakarya Janane Raja Sahankara Sahakari Bhavati. For anything to happen in the Tamas Ahankara and the Sattva Ahankara, the Sahayogi is always Rajas Ahankara. For any Karya to be performed, Rajas Ahankara needs to be associated. Satvik Ahankara Shabdatan Matra Dipanchakam Sahakarya Sadhya Shrotradi Jnanendriyani Pancha Shrujati. Very good. Now, Satvik Ahankar has Panchatan Matra. You have to connect the Satvik Ahankara with the Tamasic Ahankara to form Indriyas. Satvik Ahankar, Shrot Indriya, from Shabdatan Matra in the Tamasic Ahankar. Shabdatan Matra with the Satvik Ahankara will form Shrotra Indriya. Satvik Ahankara with Sparshatan Matra will form Twak Indriya. Tanmatra is the rudimentary form. So it doesn't really have any entity by itself. Are we getting that? Am I able to explain clearly?
I think you did. So what you said is like with the sattvic ahankara and the rudimentary form of that comes from tamasic ahankara, right? You form the sense organs basically.
Correct. Senses. Yes, absolutely. And now they come in, because now we just said that the Rajas Ahankara is associating these two together. Also, any karya has to be done through that.
Right.
So, Shabdatan Matra is Shrotra Indriya, Sparshatan Matra is Twak Indriya, Rupatan Matra is Chakshur Indriya,
Right.
Rasatan Matra is Jihva, and Gandhatan Matra is Grahana. And this is how Pancha Indriyas are made.
The Sattva Ahankar is what modifies into the Pancha Jnanendriyam, Pancha Karmendriyam, and Manas.
Yes.
But they are saying is it the Jnanendriyam that is getting formed along with the Tanmatram? The Tanmatram gets associated to the Jnanendriyam.
Okay. Yes.
That formation is happening with the help of Rajas Ahankara.
Yes.
And that's when the organs are being formed.
Yes. So you see, the quality and the associated organ are two different entities. So even though we say Jnanendriya here, you are referring to the associated organs. So who sees?
The knowledge sees.
So you see.
Yeah.
You're right. So you see, but what sees?
The
eye sees it, and the jnanam tells what you're seeing.
Correct. So where is the seeing happening? Inside you, no?
Right.
Where is the hearing happening?
Again inside you.
These are the indriyas.
Correct. Okay.
When we are referring to what is being seen, with the association of the Prakriti, yes, of course, the Sattva Ahankara and Raja Ahankara, organ also you require, no? So if I am just sitting as an Atma, how will I see? So I require the ability to see through the physical aspect also and through the subtle aspect. So when they come together with the Rajas Ahankara, it becomes a complete organ system.
The subtle entity with the physical entity, the subtle entity with the quality to do that activity forms the organ. It's necessary for the organ. All three pieces are needed. Okay, your ability to hear, right? The ability of the manas to understand it, and the organ, which is your ear, all three put together makes hearing happen. Otherwise, it will not.
Does that make sense? You are absolutely correct. So there is nothing else to it. These things are they'll sound a certain way. The reason being, see. So imagine like this, yeah. In our lives, how we have studied is we've studied ABCD in nursery. Then as we've gone further, we said we started by saying Newton's law of motion came only 7th, 8th standard. First we say Newton is correct, and then later we say Newton may not be correct. But because we know what Newton has said earlier, as we have gathered information upon that, and we have built one mountain of knowledge which we will have to eventually break and form another one. With this, we have not learned from there. Suddenly we are talking about the top of the mountain, but there is no base. So the words are difficult to grasp in the realm of intellectuality. Because we don't know what is referring to what. If I tell you this atom, that atom, you'll mean, okay, I know what he's referring to. He's saying sodium, he's saying potassium, he's saying scandium. Oh, it looks like this because it has so many neutrons, protons, because it is in the periodic table. This is the periodic table, 118 odd elements. This is how they came. Rutherford tried, he may have failed, and some other fellow came. That entire knowledge system is there with you, and it makes it very easy for me when I say, okay, hydrogen and oxygen come together. Hydrogen doesn't like anybody, or maybe he likes everybody, depending on what state he is in. So some people will say 3 tattvas, that is correct only. Some people are saying 26, that is correct
That is
only.
also correct only.
If somebody says 25, then they are partially correct. They are forgetting Paramatma. And if somebody is saying 24, then they are forgetting themselves. So then don't listen to them.
I was listening to Velakuri's Upanyasam on Mukundamala yesterday. He was saying that, even if by chance you call the number 26, the Lord will show up because you have called him. Right? If you call 26, he will be there because you're calling the Lord. You can call him by that form too.
Because last session, Mataji had mentioned some Advaita Siddhanta she had just asked. So I thought before we conclude, I want to mention a few things. Because you had already mentioned, I thought I would like to clarify a few things. If you are interested only though.
Sure.
Okay. So an Advaita Siddhanta is what it's saying basically is that this body is not true, like we are all saying. Okay, this manas is also not true. Manas, buddhi, chitta, ahamkara. Ahamkara they also refer to as aham vritti, the vritti which is created within the manas. And there is this ahamkara which says I am, like you and I say I am. That is also not you. So what are you? So when the ahamkara realizes the true me, so let's call that ahamkara me right now. When I recognize that the sun is me, I am not this reflected sun in this chitit chaya. This is called a chitit chaya, the reflection of the original Atma. The reflection thinks it is, and because the mirror becomes blurry, the reflection cannot see itself, which it actually is. That dirt in the mirror is called ajnana, avidya. Now they have different meanings in different sampradaya. For us, avidya is karmakanda. Vidyam cha it's said in the Upanishad.
Right.
Okay, Shukla Yajurvedam. It is not so for us. For them, they are saying it is mithya. The fact that this body exists is also mithya. It never existed to begin with.
Okay.
The fact that manas, buddhi, chitta and that ahamkara which you are actually saying is you for the past thousands and billions and trillions of years is also not true. What is true? Only that Atma is true. Which is the same for you and same for me. Meaning, when we are on Zoom call, Atma is talking to itself. But because of Ajnana, it does not know that it is Atma. So we see ourselves as individual entity. If that is the case, then what happens is, why do we need moksha? If this is untrue, it is mithya. So there is a difference between asatya and mithya. Asatya means it exists, but it is not what you think it is. So, if I ask you, let me ask somebody else. So, I'll ask someone, walking down the street, and I say, "Hey Bob, could you give me £1, please? I need to get back home, and I don't have any money." So the fellow will say, "I'm sorry, mate, I don't have any." I'm sure he has. But he'll say he doesn't have. A rich man, a lot of money, kind of clothes he wears. That is asatya. Why is it asatya? The concept of a pound exists. There exists something like a pound. Can I ask him for something that does not exist? Ask me for something that doesn't exist. I'll give it to you. But you ask me something you see. There is no need to think because the moment you think it exists.
Yeah, the moment you think it exists, right? If you don't think and only you can ask for it. But then you see, but whatever you ask,
Should exist.
so should exist. That's the problem. That's the contradiction, right? Because only then can you ask. Otherwise you can't ask because you don't know about it.
If it is asatya, then it must have existed in some form. So the nyaya where in the corner of the room there is a rope. When you enter the dark room, it looks like a snake. Right? Have you heard this one? This is a classic example. So
Right.
the rope looks like a snake. So a person enters the room, the corner of the room, there is a basket upon it, there is a snake. And he's very scared of the snake. The fear is real, he's sweating, that's also real. What's done to himself is also real. Everything is real. Then I just walk in with the smell, the wave of smell comes across me and I switch on the light. What is wrong with you? He looks at the corner of the room and he sees a rope.
Yeah.
The moment that happens, the fear goes. He stops sweating. He goes, cleans himself. What changes? The knowledge that it was a rope and not a snake.
Yeah.
This is what they call mithya. Mithya means it never existed to begin with. But a snake exists somewhere for you to think it is a snake.
Yeah.
So is it mithya or is it Brahma? Brahma is you see one thing but it is actually something else. Mithya is you see something that never existed. How can you observe something that never existed to begin with?
That's the question.
There
You
must
don't
be
have the concept of that thing.
there must be some reality to begin with upon which you can have a level of misunderstanding or lack of understanding. Or for instance, Maya. Maya is said completely, it's such a thing that you cannot understand it. So Ramanujacharya asked the simple question, how can you not understand something completely? What's the point of talking about something you don't even understand to any extent? You should be able to understand a part of it, at least a little bit, and outside of which you cannot understand. And that's fine. Just like this existence, Bhagavana, you can understand a part of him, you can't understand everything. He himself can't understand. I mentioned that also. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa. You cannot understand. Just like that. So now they are saying that is Atma. So that means I am that Atma. And this world is mithya. It never existed to begin with. If it never existed to begin with and I am actually Atma, what is the point of moksha? Because this never existed. If never existed, why do we need moksha? Number one. And if this is an outcome of the imagination of Atma, then who are we getting moksha from? Because an outcome of the Atma only we are here.
Mm-hmm.
That Atma they are referring to Brahman. So you are trying to go into Atma Anubhava. That is called Kaivalya Moksha. It is a point. There is a point in which it exists. So even if it may not occupy space, it must exist somewhere. There must be a point upon which it exists. To locate it. So it must exist somewhere. Now, what did Atma want? Apnoti iti Atma. Whatever Atma desires, it will fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Therefore, if the Atma is throughout his life and many lives, he is trying to attain the Atma, what will he achieve? He'll achieve the self. He'll achieve Atma. Atma Anubhava. Now, Atma Anubhava is moksha. Moksha means what? Coming out of this life. This sansara is called. Attaining Bhagavan is not called moksha. That's called mukti.
Mm-hmm.
So you come out of this life, but you can't go there. To Sayujya Samipya Salokya. You don't reach. So that is called Kaivalya Moksha. Is there happiness except for the Paramatma which is there within Jivatma? So there must be some level of satisfaction there. But it is not attaining Bhagavana because there is only Atma, he is saying. If there is only Atma, you will attain only that. And you stay there. And apparently...
even during Mahapralayam. Right?
Yes,
even there,
done. Bhagavana doesn't enter that place. Because you have gotten Shuddha Sankalpam, no? Your purity in Sankalpam. Good or bad. You have to choose. Bhagavana is not going to intervene upon somebody else's life. Whatever you choose, he will grant. He has given you swatantrata in your will. So, if you want him, you will attain him. If you don't want him, you will not attain him. If somebody wants Atma and he has attained Atma, why will he interfere? So he will not interfere there. And they are in bliss by themselves. Now, what about this world? This world is like a dream. It's like when last night you slept, I used to dream of flying. So I'll be one dog and then I'll be flying like this. I wake up, it's all gone. The dog was real. I was flying and all the wind is coming in. That's all real. It's all a sensation that I know is true. Everything is true in that dream. Sometimes you are happy in the dream. Sometimes you may not be so. And it's all true in the dream, except when you wake up. The moment you wake up, what changes? The knowledge that it was a dream is clear to you, which was not clear then. Make sense? So that knowledge factor has changed from when you're sleeping to when you are awake. So Advaita Siddhanta necessarily understands the concept of Jnana Yoga as the basic path to moksha. Through the knowledge, the intellect, higher intellect, you will attain Paramatma, which is himself in his understanding. And Advaita has had a great significance to all our lives. The fact that we have Archa Vigraha in each of our homes is the blessing of Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya to re-establish Dharma in Bharatavarsha. He walked many times for many years, and in each village he Prana Pratishtha, he brought deities for every village he brought, and he established it there. So people can pray anywhere. They don't have to go anywhere else. They don't have to go to Tirtha. They don't have to go anywhere, and everybody is accessible. There was a TV series when we were young. The fellow's name was Karma. He was the hero. And when he came in, like Karmanyeva Adhikaraste Ma Phale Sukadachana, like that they would say. So I think every child knows this, at least my generation. So what is the shloka goes like this: Karmanyeva Adhikaraste Ma Phale Sukadachana Ma Karma Phalahetur Bhur Mate Sangostva Karmani. Here karma is referring to Vedic karma. Itihasa Puranabhyam Veda Samupa Brahmayet. Itihas and Purana explaining Vedam. Karma in the Vedam is Vedic karma. Avidya and Vidya. Both of these are being explained in the Vedam. So what is rightful duty? Because Ma Phale Sukadachana, no? Karma here is the rightful duty. No? What is my rightful duty? How do I know? Who will tell me? Shastra will tell me, no. Principal of my convent school will not tell me what is good and not bad. Shastra will tell me what is correct and what is wrong. Why? Shasanat Shastram. It will tell you what is good, it will tell you what is not. You are saying if you do good karma, you will gain punyam. If you do bad karma, you will gain papam. Who says what is good karma, bad karma? Shastram says. Shastram is saying, if you do what I tell you to do, that is called punyam. If you do that I tell you not to do, that is papam. If you don't do what I tell you to do, that is papam. If you don't do that I tell you what not to do, it is neither punyam or papam. You just chill in that same limbo. That's what Shastram is saying. So all the karma that you do, what is the basic karma that any person does when they are born? The Dvija Jati. They'll do 70 odd samskaras they'll do. Those are also karma. You speak, that is also karma. What is a kartabyam? Kartabyam is karma.
You breathe, that's a
You
karma
breathe,
too.
that is karma. Correct. So you do. Is breathing a rightful duty? That is innately. Vedam will never tell you something that is obvious. When you sit for dinner and there is food on the plate, he'll tell you what to do around. He won't tell you pick up the hand like this and put it in your mouth. That is known. That you must eat with the mouth.
Yeah.
So he will never mention, Veda Bhagavana will never mention that then you must eat with your mouth. He will say then you must eat.
Yeah.
You see, so obvious things will not mention. So Karmanyevadhikaraste here necessarily refers to Varnashrama karma. Karma done by prescribed duties. We are saying prescribed duties. What is prescribed? Who has prescribed? Vedam has prescribed. For each of us, whatever duty we have is prescribed. To do that is karma. Now, how many of us are actually following our Vedic prescribed duties? 99.98%, maybe not. Some of us are trying a little bit, and some of them are actually doing Acharya Gana. Our prescribed duty is that. What does Bhagavan come to protect then? Yada yada hi dharmasya. What dharma? Vedic Sanatana Dharma. What is Vedic Sanatana Dharma? Varnashrama Dharma, no? That is Vedic Sanatana. That is Sanatana. Because Varnashrama was established by whom? I didn't establish it. My ancestors also didn't establish it. It was established by Bhagavan. It is clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also. So Varnashrama has been established by Bhagavan for some specific reason, no? Does an Atma have a Varna? Does he have a Jati? Does he have anything? Except from the karma that is covering the Atma, it has nothing. Right? Only in association with the body does it acquire anything. And it associates based on what? Based on my karma, based on the karma of that Atma. You will not accept a body based on my karma, no? You will associate with another body based on your own karma. The differentiation is in the karma of the individual jiva. So Bhagavana is trying to protect that Varnashrama. Now that is again different from what Sri Aurobindo ji may say. He will say he will come to protect adharma. Now there is no reference to what adharma is. The purport is missing, you see. So that will give us a wrong impression of what we are trying to protect. Dharma eva hato hanti dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Tasma dharmo na hantavyo. You have to protect that dharma which should protect you. Whatever dharma you protect will protect you. What is the ultimate dharma? What the Vedam prescribe? Because that is our final text. So that only we must protect. With the grace of Bhagavan Sriman Narayana, Shankha Chakra was born for that. Yunityamatchutabadam Bhajayugma Rukma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmat Gurur Bhagatosya Duyeka Sindho Ramanujasya Charanam Sharanam Prapadye Kaudinyavam Savarvari Purna Chandram Srimat Parankushapadam Bhajabringarajam Rangari Deshikabadapta Shideshikatum Sri Ramakrishna Guruvarya Maham Prapadye Lokacharya Gurave Krishna Padasya Sunave Samsara Bhogi Sandrashta Jiva Jivatave Namaha Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha.